how to convince your wife to swing.
Or how to convince your husband to swing.
Either way, in this video, we're talking about how to convince your spouse to swing. Hi, I'm Matt.
Hey there, I'm Bianca.
And in this video, we're talking about the positives, the negatives, and of course, just how to do it.
That's right. This is going to be a good one, so keep watching.
Yes, convincing your spouse to swing is one of the biggest questions we ever get from anyone ever.
Yeah, we hear that a lot from people. Just how to do it. What can I do? How can I convince them?
Something that people fantasize their entire lives about, and they're married and they're monogamous and they're like, oh, I wish we could just take that next step up.
That's right.
So we made this video to kind of talk about that. And if you stay to the end, there is an absolute perfect 100% way to do it and do it correctly, no matter what your relationship status is. It's wild, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's kind of just talk about how we've seen a lot of other couples do it.
Yeah.
What stories they have, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of couples all the time. And one of our favorite questions is, who brought it up? Who brought up getting into lifestyle? So we hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
we really do. And there are stories about every direction as far as if they were successful or not. For example, the awkward ones is we hear a lot about on the lifestyle cruises that exist. So if you don't know, there are these giant events that happen a few times a year. Thousands of people take over a huge cruise ship, and it's just swingers everywhere.
That's right.
And every single time that we're on one of these ships, we hear a story about a guy who brought his wife on this ship and didn't tell her that it was a swinger cruise.
Could you just imagine? Honey, I booked this vacation of a lifetime, like this once in a lifetime vacation for us. And she's like, oh, that's so sweet. I'm so excited to spend our anniversary with you. Just the two of us having fun and being so romantic and moonlit walks on the deck and all that. And then you get closer to getting there, like, you're at the port and you see people with t-shirts that say stuff like threesomes are not just for golf.
It's foursomes, but yeah,
foursomes. I knew as it was coming out, I knew it was going to come out wrong. But t-shirts that say hedonism is a great way for whatever. I don't know. Vanilla is not just for ice cream.
There you go. There's one. You got one t-shirt, correct? Yeah. Anyway, you see a lot of t-shirts, a lot of pineapples, but more than anything, that whole point of the guy doing that was to say, oh, I figure when my wife is in this situation and she's just getting picked up by so many people that she's going to get so turned on and that she's going to want to swing.
Right.
That is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
That does not work.
No, it doesn't. And we've seen the outcome of that.
Yeah. If you want to get a divorce, if that's your plan. If you want to just be fighting on a cruise this entire week, that's a good way to do it.
I mean, if you want to stay in your room and just order room service and not have sex, this is probably a good way to do it.
If you want to be kicked out of your room while your wife is getting room service and you're outside knocking.
I don't know how to ask for a divorce. Let me try it this way. It's so expensive.
That's right. So that is a way not to do it.
That's right.
And when it comes down to it, it's because that person was afraid to communicate, was afraid to have the conversation with their spouse about, hey, let's open things up.
Yeah.
So what's another example of a couple that we know that has started their journey? How did they do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, communication, we always say, is key for the lifestyle. And one couple that we know of were having some rocky times in their marriage and decided to seek out help. And
like a counselor.
Yeah, like they went into therapy, and which is great when you don't necessarily know how to communicate yourself. I think therapy is really great for anybody and everybody, but especially if you're having trouble communicating with your spouse, a third person in there can really help you open up and maybe discover what you're looking for, things you didn't know that were available out there, but also to help you navigate a conversation with your spouse. And that's kind of what happened with this couple. Is they were in therapy, and the therapist, through whatever work that they did, said, hey, have you thought about checking out some lifestyle clubs and some alternative relationships?
Have you thought about opening a relationship? Have you thought about having a threesome? Have you thought about having a foursome? And they've never had this conversation before. And then suddenly the fact that the cat was out of the bag, they could start to have open and honest conversations with each other. But I think that's an example of a couple that was at the furthest lengths of their relationship. They were trying to do whatever they could to keep things together. And it ended up being that was a way that could could help them. Now, oftentimes we will tell people swinging is the worst thing to do if you're trying to save a marriage.
Right.
But this is an example of a couple that actually had already gone through the work that way and had already saved their marriage.
They were just looking for...
And they're looking for more. They're looking for the next steps of their relationship. And it ended up being, hey, let's go and let's start to play with other people. And it's been working great for them.
Yeah. It's brought them much closer together, and they're having a great time. What else? Can you think of any other stories that we know of?
Oh, what about that one couple that we interviewed not too long ago?
Right. One of the things that they did, and I while they are very successful and they're doing really well in the lifestyle, the way that they got into it, the conversation, probably not the best, and they'll be the first ones to tell you that too, I think. But, you know, she brought it up to him when they were just about to turn the lights off and get, you know, they were in bed. They were about to turn the lights off. Oh. So I do think finding the right moment is so important. Setting the stage for this conversation that's not going to be a quick, hey, you want to have sex with other people? Sure. Okay, let's go.
All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Good night. And then just go to sleep.
I mean, you want to definitely have a good, long conversation. Start that long road of communication with your partner. And, you know, getting ready for bed is not probably the best time to do it. If I were to do it, knowing what I know now, I would probably pick a moment where the kids aren't all over us and like right under our feet or whatever. I would probably have a glass of wine or something like that, like kind of little liquid lubrication. Set the mood and set the tone for a really nice long conversation. Maybe it's not something that you want to have while you're at a restaurant in case the other partner gets heated or doesn't understand what you're asking for. You know, I think sometimes people, when they say, hey, I would like to discuss opening up our marriage, some people can get hurt by that. Like, what am I not giving you? And then they can feel jealous and that kind of stuff. And being around other people in a restaurant or something might not be the best place to discuss this journey.
Something as strong as this can be. This is a strong conversation that you're going to have.
Yeah.
So we know a couple, for example, that actually were on a road trip, and they were basically like, we've got the next 2 weeks to talk about things. It'll just be the two of us in a car. And they started to bring it up, and they were able to get through everything, because when you start this conversation, there's going to be a lot of talking. Not only a lot of talking before you do anything and getting yourselves to be brave enough to go to a lifestyle club like Club Sapphire, but also just the fact that it's going to be so much conversation during and after and for years as you are in the lifestyle. Right. So you will open up your communication like it's never been opened up before.
Well, and just getting to the point where you're comfortable talking about your fantasies and your desires. You know, are you interested in just playing with your primary partner, but in front of other people in a more public setting? Are you someone that just wants to have sex with one other person, some threesomes, some male, female, like what are you into? And so opening up those lines of communication with your partner is so important so that you can have those. And honestly, I think a lot of those conversations, especially in the beginning, can be so sexy and fun and just like, ooh, we're just like talking about sex all the time. It's kind of fun.
Sure. So here's a question for you. If you haven't had this conversation with your spouse or significant other yet, what is stopping you from doing this? All right, answer below, right below in the YouTube comments. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are about that.
We know I have a friend who went to a concert like right after work, and then from the concert they were like, it's early, we don't really feel like going home. And one of them said, well, I heard about this club, and you want to go check it out? And she was kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm dressed for it. And they just were like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go and see. So I think because they probably already had good communication skills already and had already kind of talked a little bit about that could go very wrong though. I think if you're just coming home from a concert, I think if that was us and you were like, hey, we just stopped, this concert's over, you want to go? I'd be like, why don't we just go to a bar? And if I'm not, me personally, if I'm not feeling in the right frame of mind as far as how I'm dressed or whatever, like I'm not going to want to go.
Sure.
And that could possibly have led to an argument of, but I really want to go check it out. Well, I don't feel like it, and hopefully you don't argue and you're just like, well, let's go another day when we can make a plan for it. But I mean, luckily it worked out for them where they were just kind of like, I heard about this. Okay, let's go check it out. Sounds fun.
Sure.
But not the way that I would probably go.
Yeah. So there are lots and lots of ways to bring this conversation up to your partner. And a question for you is, if you're in the lifestyle, how did you bring it up to your partner? Other people want to know. So please, again,
share your story with everyone else so that they can learn and grow from your experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So feel free to write that in the comments below. All right. So now we actually have, out of all these years of doing this, we actually have the best way, unquestionably, to talk and to open up the conversation, open up the communication with your spouse or your significant other, no matter how long you've been together, whether you've been together a week or a month or 25 years, that you can actually start the conversation easily. This is wild.
But first, could you do me a quick favor? Could you press that like button down below? When you do that, it'll help others find our videos. And if you find value in our videos, consider subscribing.
Yeah, so we've been in lifestyle a really long time, and we heard about this probably 7 or 8 years ago, where there is this website that exists that is the best way to actually open up the conversation with your significant other about lots of things. For example, whether you want to get into the lifestyle or you just want to get things a little wilder in bed or whatever it might be. And so basically this website has about 20 to 30 questions on it. For example,
do you like to be spanked?
Sure. For mild things like, do you like to be spanked, to all the way up there, do you want to be in an orgy with a whole bunch of people?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, or do you want to be in a foursome or a threesome or all sorts of questions?
Do you want to be videotaped by your spouse and put on the internet while you're having sex? Just pretty much all of the different kinks and fetishes that are out there. And so basically you take this test, and then you send this to your significant other, and they take the test as well. And the website will actually put you both together, and they will say, oh, they both said that they are interested in showing off and having exhibitionism, having sex in front of other people, for example. And then it will say this. It will tell them, you both have interest in exhibitionism. So then you can actually start up that conversation about exhibitionism. And that also includes threesomes and swinging and all that. And if you both are brave enough to say, yes, I'm interested, but it's only going to say that I'm interested if my significant other is also interested, it's such a time saver. It's the easy button, basically, for getting into the lifestyle. And it's fantastic. We tell everybody about it when you're kind of starting out. And the name of that website is mojoupgrade.com. And it's totally free, and it is a great way to get in the lifestyle.
That's right. That reminds me of the Mojo Dojo Casa House from Barbie.
That's true. Well, actually, speaking of Barbie, we did a video not too long ago about, do you need to be a Barbie and Ken to get into the lifestyle? And that video is right about there. So what you want to do is you want to click on it right now. Go for it. Just click that button right now.